Hi, my name is Sue Ellen Cummings. I will be sharing my training video on prompting. So, what is a prompt? Prompt is an evidence-based strategy to support children with autism to develop their language, their communication, and their social interaction skills. Prompting encourages the client to perform a task until they learn how and when to do it, but naturally, the ultimate goal when using prompting is to teach the individual or your client to eventually perform that skill independently in appropriate situations without needing any prompts at all. So in this visual that you see right here, these are the 6 different types of prompting. And there's a full physical, partial physical, modeling, gestural, verbal, and visual prompting. So we also have on the sides, it says least to most prompting, which means that the least to most prompting is the one that starts with the least invasive, prompt, which would be visual, and then most to least prompting would be the most, starting with the most invasive prompt, which would be the full physical prompt. I'm going to go through my PowerPoint and talk about each of these prompt levels and give some examples and some ways that people use these. All right, so we'll start with the full physical prompting. The reason this one is considered the most invasive one is because it's a full physical prompt. You have your hand over hand prompting, and you are physically fully guiding the client or the individual to do what they're supposed to do. So in these 3 pictures that I have, you see that in the first one, someone is learning to tie their shoe. So you can see that someone has their hands fully over the child's hands, teaching them, basically doing it for them. Same with the washing hands, and same with the little boy on the right. I think he may be writing his name, but she is helping by, or whoever is helping by fully putting their hand over the pencil in the client's hand and writing the name. So that would be the full physical prompting. And then next is partial physical prompting, which is partially physically helping the client or the individual. So in these, you see, instead of having full on your hand over hand with helping how to tie a shoe, it looks like the adult or the caregiver is lightly nudging his arm, maybe nudging it where it needs to go. Same with the washing hands, and same with the one all the way on the right, writing his name. So you're not full on doing it, you're just kind of nudging their arm, or maybe tapping their wrist, or whatever it may be. Next one is modeling. Modeling is basically modeling what you want that person or individual or whoever it is to do. So in these pictures, it looks like she's going like this, and then the little kid is going like this too. So ultimately she did this and wanted him to do this, and he did. So same with the picture on the right. Basically, you model and you hope that that person copies you exactly what you do. The next one is gestural. So gestural is more of a gesture type of prompt, and that could be nodding your head or pointing to an object. In all of these examples, they are pointing. So in the middle one, maybe you say, "Where's dog?" and then you point to dog. There's dog. You don't say anything, but you point to dog, and then there's dog. Also, another way of doing a gestural, which is not in one of these pictures, is maybe you're doing a puzzle, and the kid or the client doesn't know how to, or doesn't know where to put the puzzle piece. So you just tap where the puzzle piece goes in hopes that the client will put the puzzle piece in where you're tapping. All right, next is verbal. Verbal is a verbal prompt. So basically, it involves providing the client with a verbal cue. So an example of this would be giving the client the beginning sound of the word to be learned. So maybe you are doing peer play and you want the client to say, "My turn." And you can just say, when it comes to him and he wants a turn with the stick, you say, "My," and then hopefully they'll say, "My turn." Or you can just say, "My turn," and hopefully they'll say, "My turn," and back. So that's a verbal prompt. All right, lastly is a visual prompt, the least invasive one, because this one you are not touching at all, you are not talking at all, you are simply showing a picture in hopes that they know what this picture means and they know what to do with this. So some of these examples are an activity schedule. All the way on the left side of the screen there is 1 through 6, so maybe this is their schedule for the session. First, time clock. 2, check your work. 3, complete your work. 4, finish work, so and so on. So eventually they learn these visual cues and they know what each one means and they know what to do when they see these cues. So another one is the my turn, your turn visual. So another example is a pure play example, and maybe whenever it is Jimmy, let's say Jimmy's turn, you show the my turn card, and then hopefully Jimmy knows, oh, that card means my turn. And then whenever it's, let's say, Sally's turn, you show Jimmy the your turn card, so Jimmy knows, oh, it's your turn, it's Sally's turn. And then there's also an example of a first then visual, and this is usually to help with maybe challenging behaviors when transitioning to a preferred item, such as a toy, a marble toy, and to going to sitting at the table and doing a non-preferred item, which is maybe a puzzle. So first we're going to do puzzle, then we'll play more marbles. And that's just that type of visual cue, and that usually is used, for those transitions, maybe help it with the visual. They know that marbles is coming after I sit at the table and do work. It can also be used for a completion of like a step-by-step thing. So I brush my teeth, and this is how you brush your teeth. You go through each step and you know what each visual cue means. So there's a bunch of different ways to use a visual prompt, and it is a very common way to use, very common prompt to use, especially for those nonverbal children that we work with. So those are the 6 prompts. Now I'm going to kind of go over why prompts are important, and I also want to go over this interesting article that I found about a comparison of most to least prompting to least to most prompting. So prompts are important because they are there to help both us as therapists as well as our clients. We use these prompts to help our clients reach that independency stage. Studies have found that prompting is an effective evidence-based strategy in supporting the language and communication development of children with autism. That being said, it's important to have a good understanding of each individual's strengths and needs in order to choose the correct level of prompting. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I'm going to go into the comparison article that I read on the most to least to most prompting. So when I looked into this study that was comparing these two, it ultimately showed that the prompting technique used should be tailored to the individual learner, kind of like what I said earlier. It points out that the practitioners should also consider the possibility that the most effective prompting technique for a learner may vary across types of skills that are being taught. So, for example, you may have a student or you may have a client that may readily learn to answer questions with the least to most prompting. But they may require a most to least prompting when learning to button up their shirt or put on their shoes or brush their teeth. So it really just depends, on their skill level, and every individual is different. There is no right way to do these promptings on everybody. Everybody is going to be different. So it's very important to know your clients and their needs and their skills in order to choose what kind of prompting you're going to do. All right, I linked all 3 articles that I referenced throughout this PowerPoint. If you want to go and give them a look and read them, they are all very interesting, and I hope you enjoyed my training video on prompting.